For Unit 11, the blood, let's start by describing the general characteristics of blood. Hematology is a term that means blood, and ology refers to the study of. So hematology is the study of blood, and we're going to get into general characteristics and functions here in the first few slides. Overall, the general characteristics of blood are that it's connective tissue. In this case, though, it has liquid matrix. So as you're probably familiar with, blood is moving around in our blood vessels and is liquid matrix, but it still is connective tissue. How I think about this is it connects different parts of my body. It connects my lungs to all the other parts of my body in order to provide oxygen. The color of blood is somewhere between red and blue-red, depending on whether the blood is oxygenated or not. The average person has 4 to 6 liters of blood in their body. And the pH of the blood is just slightly alkaline, slightly basic at 7.35 to 7.45 as a pH. The blood is 3 to 5 times more viscous than water. This term viscous is referring to the thickness of the blood. So the blood is 3 to 5 times more thick than water. So what is blood actually made out of? If we were to take a sample of blood through a syringe and then place it into a test tube like this, and then actually place it into something that could spin the test tube really quickly, the machine that's used in the lab is called a centrifuge, it would actually spin the blood down to look like this. All the heavy particles falling to the bottom, all the medium weighted particles in the middle, and the lightest parts on top. These areas actually have different components within them. And so the top portion is plasma, and it makes up about 55% of the blood. Plasma is mostly water. Inside the water component of the plasma, there are proteins dissolved, there are salts dissolved, sugar, and a few other components. We also have the formed elements. This makes up 45% of the blood. The formed elements ultimately are referring to all the different types of cells that we find within the blood. These include red blood cells, or erythrocytes, that make up the vast majority of that 45%. And then we have this buffy coat in here, a little white layer that is made up of the white blood cells and the platelets. Let's take a look then at the functions of the blood. There are 3 major functions of the blood: transportation, regulation, and protection. Let's start by taking a look at transportation. What kind of things are being transported in the blood? Oxygen is being transported in the blood. So oxygen is being picked up by the blood in the lungs and then being transported all around the body to provide oxygen to all the cells of your body in order to make energy. Nutrients are being transported. So in order to make energy, we learned that we need oxygen, but we also require glucose. And so glucose is an example of nutrients that are transported around the body. Hormones. The endocrine system we just learned about in the last unit. All those hormones are transported via the blood to all the different parts of the body that they will affect. Wastes, like carbon dioxide, urea that we'll learn about in the urinary system, are picked up by the blood from cells. They are then transported around the body to the various organs that help get rid of them. So carbon dioxide, as the blood passes through the lungs, the carbon dioxide is given off. For the urea that I mentioned, when the blood goes through the urinary system to the kidneys, the urea is given off as waste in the kidneys. For regulation, our blood helps maintain the balance of fluid and electrolytes within our body. We mentioned that plasma is mostly water, but it has electrolytes within it as well. And some of the proteins that are found within it also help to maintain the balance of fluid levels. There will be exchange between the plasma and then the tissues that the blood is traveling through in terms of water and the electrolytes moving in and out. pH, so our acidity. We mentioned that our blood is 7.35 to 7.45 in pH, and our blood plays a role in maintaining that pH both within itself and within the other tissues of our body. Temperature. Because our cardiovascular system is all over our body and the blood is moving all around, it helps to maintain our temperature in a couple of ways. One is that because it's mostly water, it retains a lot of heat. Therefore, under cold conditions, the blood can actually hold on to quite a bit of energy and then give off that energy to our tissues. On top of that, because it's moving around our body, our core, our trunk, where our heart and our other organs are, and our brain, these need to maintain their temperature for optimal function. And therefore, under cold circumstances or conditions, our blood can actually stay more within our brain and within our core, and go out less to our extremities, our arms and our legs, therefore conserving heat within our core. Under conditions where it's too hot, the blood vessels in our skin can dilate or open up, and with lots of blood flowing through those blood vessels, the heat from our body, from our blood, can actually be given off in order to cause us to evaporate sweat, ultimately cooling us off. Finally, the last function is protection, and protection is referring to the white blood cells that were mentioned before within the buffy coat, ultimately form our immune system and are involved in fighting off infection. We'll take a closer look at these types of cells and the protection that they give us in the immune system and the lymphatic system unit. Finally, we form clots. The platelets within the blood are involved in this function, and we'll take a look at it in a few moments. But we form clots when we have an injury like a cut, and the clot forms over and allows the tissues within the cut to actually heal up and reconnect. It also prevents blood loss.